An open letter to my vagina. First of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, you're welcome. I know I've put you through a lot. I've had hot wax poured on you and the hair ripped from you by strangers. Some of the strangers have burned you, even though I told them that you have very sensitive skin. But it's on me for going to a shady-looking place in Astoria, Queens, that you thought may have been a drug front. I've been responsible for getting you yeast infections and UTIs, and have worn stockings and Spanx for too long, knowing it could cause you problems. And I want to apologize for Lance on the lacrosse team, who treated you like you owed him money with his finger. That sucked, and I'm totally with you in being pissed. But you've also had a lot of nice visitors, right? Huh? You have to admit, my only one-night stand. I've only had one-night stand in my life. Yes, one. I know, I'm so sorry to disappoint anyone who thinks I walk around at all times with a margarita in one hand and a dildo in the other. Maybe the misunderstanding comes from the fact that on stage, I group together all my wildest, worst sexual memories, which is a grand total of about 5 experiences over the course of 35 years. When you hear about them all back to back, it probably sounds like my vagina is a revolving door at Macy's at Christmas time. But I talk about these few misadventures because it's not funny or interesting to hear about someone's healthy, everyday sex life. Imagine me on stage saying, "So last night I got in bed with my boyfriend and we held each other in a supportive, caring embrace, and then he made sweet love to me." The crowd would walk out and I'd walk out with them. And besides, even I sometimes confuse my onstage sexual persona with my reasonable, sensible, real self. Sometimes I try to convince myself that I can have emotionless sex, the kind I'm always hearing about from men and Samantha on Sex and the City. And I have my moments, but 99.9% of the time, I'm not that way. I've never even hooked up with a guy after one of my shows. Isn't that sad? I've been touring for 12 years, and not once have I met a guy after I've performed, brought him home, and even made out with him. Nothing. I know some male comics who say they've never gotten laid without the girl seeing them perform first. It's the exact opposite for me. I'm not in this for the dick. I enjoy sex the normal amount, and most of the time it's with someone I'm dating and I just lie there in happy baby pose making it sound like I'm having a good time. When I'm single and one-night stands present themselves, I'm usually still a fairly self-protective chick, and the thought of some mystery cock entering me doesn't get my pulse going. Well, except for this one time. I was on the road doing a tour and traveling between 2 horrendous cities, Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Tampa, Florida. I'm not scared about writing that and making those people mad because I know for a fact that no one who lives there has ever read a book. JK, 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 JK. But, kind of not K. When you go between cities like those two, you get the pleasure of flying on the tiniest short bus in the sky, which for some reason is still called a plane. You can hear the propellers the whole flight, and also the faintest sound of someone singing La 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 Bamba. But you hope that the latter is just in your head. It was early morning and I was hungover. As I said, I'd been doing a show in Fayetteville, and there's nothing to do there afterward except drink until your eyes close. I got to the airport as I usually do, with 0 makeup or a bra, wearing sweatpants, a t-shirt, and flats. I'm not someone who looks adorable in the morning. I would argue I look exactly like Beetlejuice, the Michael Keaton character, not the Howard Stern regular. I was enjoying this lovely time in my life when no one took pictures of me unless I photobombed them. I was just a wonderful 31-year-old girl who was opening and closing her mouth, realizing she'd forgotten to brush her teeth. Well, less forgot and more I'd left my toothbrush in Charleston, and it didn't occur to me to buy one in North Carolina. One way for me to verify that I drank too much the night before is if I wake up with red wine teeth and enough eyeliner smeared underneath my eyes that I resemble a tight end for the New England Patriots. The point is, on this particular morning I looked heinous and smelled like curry, and if someone had put $1 in my coffee cup, thinking I was homeless, I would have thought, yep. I got to airport security, and there he was, a 6-foot, 2-inch strapping strawberry blonde of about 35 years. My first kiss was with a redhead, so I've always had a weakness for them. He was the most beautiful man I'd ever seen, and I was immediately turned on just by looking at him. Quick side note, that never fucking happens. Everyday men look at women walk by in skirts and tight jeans and get tiny erections, or at the very least, some sort of arousal. But for women, it's a rare occurrence to see a dude and think, damn! I was looking him up and down, trying to find 1 inch of him that wasn't Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, and there was nothing. All he was missing was the ponytail, and the bow on said ponytail. I audibly sighed, and before he walked through the metal detector, he looked at me. All the blood rushed to my vagina, and I smiled at him before immediately remembering that I looked like Bruce Vilanch. For those of you who don't know who he is and are too lazy to Google it, just picture a barn owl wearing a blonde wig. I got through security and walked to my gate, and boom! There he was again, looking even hotter than before. He was wearing a crew-neck, long-sleeve shirt that was just tight enough around the chest so you knew what was up. It was abundantly clear that underneath his shirt was a place where you would want to rest your cheek and breathe in all his pheromones until he took you like Marlon Brando in Streetcar or Ryan Gosling in anything. I ran to the bathroom to try to find makeup in my purse, which is an actual bottomless pit when I need something, and at all other times. I'm not lying when I say my purse has all the contents of an actual ostrich's nest. I'll never do a celebrity magazine "What's in your purse" story because people would see the array of fun, gross surprises in there and probably think I need to be hospitalized. I found some blush and chapstick and thought, perfect! That's all I need to take me from a 2 to a 4. I looked in the mirror and saw the rosacea I'd created and laughed at myself. Fuck it. I rolled my sweatpants up to calf height, thinking, let's highlight my strongest zone. I brushed my teeth with my finger and splashed water all over myself. I walked out like I was on a runway and floated right past him. He at no time, for even 1 second, looked at me in the terminal. I bought some gum and a magazine with Jennifer Aniston on the cover and boarded the plane, defeated. I got to my tiny window seat and started reading about how Jennifer was going to die alone and it wasn't fair. And there he was again, boarding the plane. He walked down the aisle and I watched him, his arms bulging and his huge hands gripping his bags as he navigated his way between the seats. I was thinking, maybe when he walks by, I can pretend to sneeze and fall on the floor in front of him, and he will trip and fall inside of me. Then I saw him look right at the seat next to me. No, I thought. There is no way he is in the seat next to me. No, no, no. But yes! Game, set, fucking match. I am an introvert. I know. You're thinking, what the fuck, Amy? You just told us you hooked up with a stranger in Tampa and now you're claiming to be shy? You're not shy. You're a loud, boozy animal. Okay, fair enough. Sometimes that's true. But I am, without a doubt, a classic textbook introvert. In case you don't know what that word means, I will fill you in quickly. If you do know what it means, then skip ahead to the chapter about where to find the best glory holes in Beijing. Just kidding, I don't have that info. Also, just fucking read my description of an introvert. Why are you in such a rush to skip ahead, you pervert? Being an introvert doesn't mean you're shy. It means you enjoy being alone. Not just enjoy it, you need it. If you're a true introvert, other people are basically energy vampires. You don't hate them, you just have to be strategic about when you expose yourself to them. Like the sun. They give you life, sure, but they can also burn you, and you will get that wrinkly Long Island cleavage I've always been afraid of getting and that I know I now have. For me, meditation and headphones on the subway have been my sunscreen, protecting me from the hell that is other people. There's a National Geographic photo I love of a young brown bear. He's sitting peacefully against a tree near the border of Finland and Russia. The caption reads something like, "The cubs played feverishly all day, and then one of them left the group for a few minutes to relax on his own and enjoy the quiet." This was very meaningful to me because that's what I do. Except in my case, the bear gets ripped away from his chill spot by the tree, and several people paint his face and curl his fur and put him in a dress so he can be pushed on stage to ride one of those tiny bicycles in the circus. I'm not saying he doesn't enjoy making people laugh, but still, it's hard out there for a fuzzy little introvert. I know some people who've written books have struggled through it, and you can feel them ripping themselves apart on every page. But for me, writing this book has been one of the great pleasures of my life. Sitting and writing and talking to no one is how I wish I could spend the better part of every day. In fact, it might be surprising for you to learn that most of my days are spent alone. Unless I'm on set, which is crazy draining for an introvert. As soon as lunchtime arrives, I skip the food service tables and rush to my trailer or a quiet corner and I meditate. I need to completely shut off. This time spent silently is like food to me. I also eat a lot of food. But if I'm not shooting something, I like to be alone all day. Maybe an hour lunch with a friend, but that's it. When you're a performer, especially a female one, everyone assumes you enjoy being on all the time. That couldn't be further from the truth for me, or any of the people I'm close to. The unintentional training I received when I was little was that because I was a girl and an actor, I must love being pleasant and making everyone smile and feel comfortable all the time. I think all little girls are trained this way, even those who aren't entertainers like I was. Women are always expected to be the gracious hostess, quick with an anecdote and a sprinkling of laughter at others' stories. We're always the ones who have to smooth over all the awkward moments in life with soul-crushing pleasantries. We're basically unpaid geishas. But when we do not fulfill this expectation, because we are introverted, people assume we must be either depressed or a cunt. Maybe I'm a cunt anyway, but it's not because I don't want to blink and smile at someone as they tell me they ran cross-country in middle school. I was living with my boyfriend Rick during the time I started having this realization about myself. But even as a child, I'd always known something was up. I didn't like to play for as long as the other kids, and I absolutely always bailed on slumber parties. But as an adult, my mom wasn't around to come pick me up in the middle of the night anymore. And I began to see things more clearly. You could say Rick was the first adult relationship I had. And for the first time, I was playing house with someone, mimicking the way married people dutifully fulfill each other's friend and family obligations. I remember going to his family's house for the holidays and realizing I would need to take frequent breaks from the lovely group of people we were hanging out with all day. Every 90 minutes or so, I would retreat to his room or go for a walk. I wasn't made to feel bad about this, but everyone was clearly clocking it. Once, Rick took me to his friend's wedding. After about 2 hours of small talk and formalities, I went to hide in the bathroom. I had nothing left to give or say, and I felt the unbearable sensation that I was treading water. It wasn't until I became best friends with some fellow comics and performers that I realized being an introvert wasn't a character flaw. Even when we all go on vacations or on the road together, we take little breaks in our own rooms and then text each other to check in. This quality is tricky when your job actually requires you to constantly travel and interact with new faces, new towns, and new audiences. You cross paths with lots of people in this line of work, and you feel shitty if you don't give away some of your energy and conversation to every driver, hotel front desk clerk, promoter, backstage crew member, member of the audience, waiter, and so on. And I do mean give away. Energy is finite between recharges. That shit runs out. It's not that I don't respect these people working hard at their jobs, which are all jobs I have done, by the way, because I've done every job in the world other than being a doula. More on that later. I know they mean well, and I know there are many people out there who, unlike me, want to tell their cab drivers all about how their flight was. Flights are always fine. And what the weather was like in New York. Cold or hot, who gives a fuck? How many hotel room keys do you want? 109. I'm just not one of those people, and I don't want to waste their time and energy, or mine, with mindless small talk. Every time a driver picks you up from the airport, they ask why you're in town and what you do for a living. When I was a rookie, I used to tell them the straight answer, but I learned my lesson because this kind of thing would happen every time. Oh, you're a comedian? Have I seen you before? Are you on YouTube? Oh, my cousin's a comedian. His name is Rudy Fuckface. Do you know him? Google him. Have you ever met Carrot Bottom? You know who's funny? Jeff Dunham. You should do a show about cab drivers. Oh, I could tell you some funny material for your act. Weren't you in that one movie? You weren't? Are you sure? I don't usually like female comics. That one really gets me. It's not like anyone would so casually say, I don't usually like black people. Either way, it's on being new money. The term nouveau riche is a fancy way of saying you're a rich person who acquired your wealth on your own. You didn't inherit it all from your great-grandfather. You worked for it. Either that or you bought that lottery ticket fair and square. But I actually prefer the term new money because it's a way of saying, yes, I am trash and I'm embracing it. I am new money. I feel lucky to live in America, where people will treat someone like me, trash, as if they come from bloodlines with Benjamins streaming through them. In England, they are not as impressed with people who have made their own dough within their lifetime. New money is considered gaudy there. But in America, new money is celebrated more than old because it was earned in some way or another. We use our new money for stupid shit like spa treatments where eels eat the dead skin off our toes or baby seal fat is injected into our assholes so we look young again. A lot of marine life is utilized for some reason. People applaud us. Go ahead, start a charity and give back a little, and no one in the States gives a hot damn how you got it. You were knocked up by a basketball player and took him for all you could? Great! Here is your own television show. You made a sex tape with a mediocre rapper? Here's the key to a billion-dollar corporation. Or in my case, hey, you told dick jokes to drunk people in small rooms at places called the Giggle Bone and the Banana Hammock. Would you like a movie deal? Looking back, I realize this is technically my second time to fall into the new money category. My parents were living the textbook new money lifestyle during my childhood, until they slipped into the no money lifestyle just in time for my delicate preteen years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I was born a precious little half-Jew in Lenox Hill Hospital on the Upper East Side and sailed the 5 blocks home to our huge duplex apartment in a limo. Dad's idea. To unbury the lead, my parents were rich. They were rolling in it. I mean, I thought they were. They'd take a private jet to the Bahamas at a moment's notice, and they thought the high life was going to last forever. It didn't. My dad owned a company called Lewis of London, a baby furniture business that imported cribs and such from Italy. I don't remember why they named it Lewis of London, but if they were looking for a fancy name that only new money people would use in order to make something sound high-end and international, they knocked it out of the park. At the time, no one else was selling fine foreign baby furniture, so rich Manhattan parents sought out my father's store, where they could pick up the fanciest tiny infant prisons that money could buy. I had some extravagant rich person things as a little kid. We moved out of the city to a nice suburb on Long Island when I was 5, where we would eat lobster once a week and smoked fish for Sunday breakfast, or as we called it, Jewing out hard. On lobster nights, Mom would bring the live ones home from the grocery store and put them on the kitchen floor for my brother, sister, and me to play with. At the time, I thought it was just a fun thing we did before boiling the tasty crustaceans, but in retrospect, I realized that we were playing with our future food in a Little Mermaid-eating Sebastian way that was very uncool. Couldn't they have just gotten us a pet goldfish? All the other kids were outside riding bikes, and we were making our lobsters race each other like gladiators. Sick. Either way, when I remember what it was like to grow up in a wealthy household, the food we ate stands out the most. Come to think of it, that's mostly what I remember about any event or moment in my life, the food that was there. A couple years ago, before I had real money, I asked Judd Apatow if it was fun being rich, and he explained to me that once you become rich, you find out all the good things in life are free. He said you can buy a house, good sushi, and CDs, but that's about it. Still, as someone who waited a lot of tables and ate off people's plates on the way back to the kitchen, fancy sushi sounded pretty good to me. Anyway, Lewis of London cornered the market until other stores started selling European baby furniture, and my parents lost it all. Which happened, incidentally, during the onset of my father's multiple sclerosis. Cool timing, universe! I don't remember how it felt to lose everything, but I do remember men coming to take my dad's car when I was 10. I watched him standing expressionless in the driveway as it was pulled away. My mom claims she didn't know what was happening financially, but if this were an episode of MTV's True Life Squandering That Cheddar, they would say she blew his millions on furs and homes. And if it were a Lifetime movie, they would say she was a victim whose life changed drastically in a split second. I don't know which is true. Probably neither. All I know is that my mom stayed in the house, denying reality like it was her job when those men came to take away the black Porsche convertible. I didn't generally notice the loss, but I did notice a change in the quality of my birthday parties. That's probably where I felt the biggest shift in my family's financial situation. When I turned 9, and we still had money, my parents threw me a farm party at our beautiful home on Surrey Lane, a quiet street in Rockville Center. Early that morning, a box with holes in it was placed in the garage. When I removed the lid, a gaggle of baby ducks looked up at me. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. I remember believing in my heart that I was the little girl in Charlotte's Web. I was so in love with those little creatures that I could have sat there and petted them all day and died happy. Since we could afford the whole kit and caboodle, real-life farmers carted real-life farm animals to our house in shifts throughout the day. Bring on the donkeys! We had a pony, we had goats, we had chickens. If you're a kid from Iowa and you're reading this, you're like, who cares? A couple of animals in your yard sounds like a Tuesday. But trust me, if you're from New York and you have a cow in your driveway, you're rich. And the most popular kid in school for a year. All my little friends dressed up in overalls and played in a pile of hay and went fucking crazy. It's gross when you see it for what it really was. A bunch of well-off kids whose idea of a great time was to slum it like poor farm children. I've also been to a food fight birthday party. Can you imagine starving kids in Syria watching us waste food like that? It makes me shudder. Don't worry, the irony came to bite me in the ass soon after. Life got less and less comfortable for us after my parents lost all their money. We began moving into smaller and smaller houses until it felt like we were all sleeping in a pile. And not a fun pile like the monsters in Where the Wild Things Are. A sad, poor pile, like the grandparents in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Amy, do you ever reference adult books? No! By the time I was in college, my mom had moved us into a basement apartment where my sister, Kim, who was 4 years younger than me, had the one bedroom, and I had to share a bed with my mom. Quick tip. Do not try to ditch a cab when you are blackout drunk and then get in bed naked with your mother. The cab driver will follow you home and knock on your door, and then your mother will have to apologize to him and give him cash while you lie giggling and nude under the sheets where you are experiencing the bed spins. I heard from a friend. But to be honest, I never felt poor, even when we were. I always had enough money for lunch and to go on field trips with my class. I was always well provided for. We would go to the occasional Broadway show or take a road trip somewhere with trees and a lake or pond, or a sizable puddle when the going got really tough. We were living above our means, just not Real Housewives of New Jersey level. It was more like the staff at Lisa Vanderpump's restaurant. Yes, I only speak in Bravo metaphors. Thank God for Andy Cohen. Luckily, all of my friends dressed bad and never had any interest in designer clothes or other material things. I've never worn jewelry, or spelled jewelry correctly on a first attempt, or name brands. My friends cared a little more than me, but it wasn't too noticeable. We would buy shirts from Bebe, but we could only afford the actual t-shirts that read Bebe, or BB, I don't know what it's really called. Those shirts were always on sale, and for good reason. I drove a shitty car, but at least I had a car. Twizzy was a very used station wagon that smelled like a stable but could turn on a dime. I loved doing donuts in that car and would drive as many people home from school as I could fit. I would shout, "Pick 'em up!" I think this is a Dumb and Dumber reference. As I made the parking lot rounds. If Twizzy went above 30 miles per hour, everyone in the car felt like they were holding shake weights. But still, it was a car. I didn't feel like a low-income kid. I remember loving my prom dress so much that I wore it to the prom twice, when I went junior year and also for my own prom, senior year. I can't remember ever wishing for something that I couldn't afford. I was very lucky. It wasn't until college that I began to take note of the fact that I had to work a little harder than the average student to get by. I was living on my meal plan, stealing food from the student union, and scamming drinks off guys when necessary, which wasn't easy because freshman year I looked like a blonde Babadook. I got a job teaching group exercise classes at my college, and those classes were my main source of legal income. I sold a little weed and shoplifted from department stores, too. Oops. Shh. That doesn't leave this book. Anyway, I was the worst drug dealer ever. I would run out of baggies and have to use entire hefty garbage bags for the smallest amount of weed. I'd give a gift along with it, like a baked potato, or whatever I had lying around the apartment. And every summer, when I came home from college, my sister and I would bartend at the only bar